families that may need help organizing, or like some of the neglect stuff, helping them come up with a cleaning schedule if it's dirty.
Are they going to be doing cleaning activities?
They will not do cleaning for them, but they will work with them to teach them how to do things that they may need, and then they will be able to report. If it's someone that was referred by social services, they will be able to report to social services on their activity and what they're able to do. If it's someone that was referred from another organization or a home visitor, a coworker, they would be able to make a report and decide if a case needs to be called in after they've worked with that family.
And a lot of times, tribal social services really uses Families First as a way to help parents. So when safety planning, they'll recommend Families First, or when reunification needs to come up, did the family work with Families First and get classes or learn how to do certain things that they necessarily didn't know how to do before. So it's something that is used very often by tribal social services, and the court really looks a lot of times to see.
There's a person that does that right now?
Their state, so this would be basically our tribal link with the state. The state is offering us this agreement to have a tribal liaison working with Families First. So Families First will still be available whether we take this or not. The difference is we have someone tribally who is working closely with our families on a regular basis. If they don't have someone that they're doing that intensive work with, they'll be doing, helping us do home visits that we already do, which I will be honest with you, is also needed. We're short-staffed in home visiting, and our numbers, I think the last I looked, we had 94 families, which is the most of any of the Healthy Start Family Spirit sites that work within a tribal council of Michigan, aside from Detroit area.
That's a motion to approve the subcontract for the Family First Prevention Service Act expansion as presented.
I just have a question about the date. It says it expires 9/30.
Okay, I asked them about that. That was something that they said they weren't able, because it says 12 months, but then it says it started in January.
So we'll have to a new one?
So basically, and then I asked him about carryover, because it's 70,000, we have to hire, that may not be enough for a full-time person, but I do have enough funds with another grant to make a full-time job out of this. So there's potential carryover, so like we're not spending 70,000 in like 2 months or something like that, that's just not.
Oh, is this just a one-time? Is this just a one-year funding?
No, it's a one-year agreement, but there is always, this program is a continuing program. So the agreements will be year to year. So what we're able to do is we'll probably get the same amount next year, so they encouraged us to spend as much as we can. And as far as the thing goes, it's a one-year agreement, so that's why they have the 12 months in there. ITC didn't get their stuff through until January, and then they're just getting their stuff to us now. So that's why the date says January, even though it's 12 months. But so this year is basically going to be our planning, hiring, training time. And then when we get our new agreement for October, I think ITC does funny ones like September 30th, they started something. But when we get our new one, it'll be the same amount of money and it'll be the same stuff, but then the dates will line up.
It'll be like our other ITC contracts that we receive, where it comes in as a yearly agreement.
But I did see that, the dates were funny, it said 12 months and then it didn't line up and stuff, but I questioned that, and they said just for they can't change the verbiage in it, but that's the explanation of why, and it'll look normal next year.
Got it.
I have a motion by Rodney, supported by Susie, to approve the ITC subcontract agreement for Families First Prevention Services. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Next up on the agenda is Jason Ayers, our Real Estate Transportation Officer. He has 2 items for council's approval today. Good afternoon.
On the English, KB 042 is a request by Steve Haddon and Deanna Haddon. Steve has transferred his leasehold interest in the lease that he held with his wife Alex up there on the big turn to Deanna. And this resolution would approve that, and I'm recommending approval.
Motion to approve KBO 42, 2022.
Motion by Doreen, supported by Don, to approve resolution KB 042, 2022. Questions?
Yeah, is this all of the land?
So, I think I know what you mean by that.
1.23 acres.
It's not the entire piece. We looked at what had been developed over the years because that was originally an assignment of lease, which is back in the day was done so that people could do agriculture, farming and stuff like that. And normally they were in 5-acre pieces, so no, we're not transferring that on. And there was no issue with that, so.
So I got another question.
Sure.
So hypothetically, say she gets married to a non-native,
Yep.
she passes away,
Yep.
she can stay there then? A non-native?
Oh, yeah, well, as long as, well, yes, if it's a spouse and they're married when Deanna would pass away.
But when she passes away, it goes back to the family?
Well, it would need to be probated, and then, depending on what the probate said, this council still has the authority, jurisdiction, I guess, for lack of a better word, to approve that.
So if somebody was really mean and vindictive, they could fight it and they could possibly get it.
I mean, that's, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, what I'm getting at is too, is normally like men or add something to that stating that it goes back to the family, not the non-native.
Well, as long as it's not, well, hold on, but see, the thing is that if they're married,
What does tribal law say?
well, I mean, we don't think we don't have a
We don't
probate
have a probate code, it's on my list,
We
it's
don't
on
have
my
a
list
probate code,
actually. But, we don't have a probate code, but the way that, I don't wanna say it, the way that Michigan works, is, it would revert to the spouse. After the spouse passes, it would, should there be no will, it would go through probate. If there is a will, it goes to the children or whoever it's willed to.
My idea for this, and I'm sorry for interrupting, Jayla, is that, of course, we need a probate code. And I know that there was one developed quite a few years ago. I just don't know where it ever went. I mean, that was back when Christoph was here, for those of you who remember Christoph, so it's been a while. But, I mean, I guess the way, at least that I've thought of to kind of address those situations is to include a provision in the lease that if it's inherited by, I mean, there's already provisions in there, so that if it's inherited by a non-Indian, we automatically reserve the right to have an appraisal done for fair market value so that we can actually charge a fair market value rent. However, another thing you could possibly do is that we could add a provision in the lease that says if it's inherited by a non-Indian through a court of competent jurisdiction, they have a certain amount of time period to sell that property to a tribal member. I think that's an easy way to do it. I mean, and I'm pretty sure I've got that provision already written
So
up.
if a family member wants it back, they might have to buy it.
Well, I mean, if it's
It's like their first right of refusal.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah.
essentially it's either, you know, their spouse dies and then you're like, get off the property, which is kind of like, or it's, you have an opportunity to, you know, make enough
Well-
money to find somewhere else to live.
Well, the risk is that the spouse gives it to the non-Indian spouse comes to the council for a lease, and the council doesn't approve a lease, so then there's a quandary.
There it
They
is.
own the building and the lease says then you got 90 days to remove your building from our property, and that's not a realistic thing, who's gonna move their house unless it's a homeowner.
Right.
So that's the risk that you face sometime, which hasn't really, it's surfaced here and there, and
Yeah.
then this non-Indian spouse could feel bullied or whatever, or in a bad position, then they gotta do the deal. But at the same time, the tribe could step in and under another situation and exercise eminent domain and just give them fair market value to buy it and say, thanks.
And then resell it to a tribal member.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another possibility.
So another question for clarity, I know Steve had told Deanna that there was 10 acres there, but that was all leased land.
Yeah, no, they don't own any fee simple
Okay.
property there, no. And, I mean, if that's something you want me to do, moving forward, I can come here with a provision to add to our leases to, you know, initiate that they have a certain time period to sell the property.
To some degree, that gives the non-Indian spouse a level of comfort that they're gonna get fair market value for their house and it's known up front. Instead of the other reverse today, which is
what happens if my partner dies and I'm a non-Indian, what happens to me? That's
Yeah.
what everybody asks today. And of course, I always encourage people that can to just buy their own property, buy a piece of the property if you have the ability to do so. So, but yeah, I could certainly bring a provision forward for that to release if that's what you'd like to do. I mean,
I would.
with short of drafting an entire ordinance and getting it approved, you know, right now, you know, that would be the easiest way to do it right now.
One day, I swear you'll see
Say
a
they were
probate
married
vote.
and she got divorced, I mean, whatever conflict where she could be like, well, I'm an owner, you know?
And that would be up to the court to decide. That would be outside our purview here.
Right.
Yeah, that would be outside.
But in
of
the
what
end,
we
if
would-
they're not in the end, ends up with the house, then to what extent does the tribe want a recourse? To either buy the house back to fair market value or not?
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. Thank you, Jason.
The other item was, I had a request from James Lottie for a permit to cut and bale hay over on the eastern end of the Brewery Road parcel. We've done this before. Before we've done it verbally, but it's easier to track these things with permits. The only catch with the permit is that I'm requiring him to contact NRD so that they can show him the limitations of where they would want him to cut based on what they've done out there.
So why did we stop?
Why do we stop what? Verbal, we've only stopped doing it verbally. Nobody asked the past couple of years, or the last year, or the last 2 years. Before then, it was done verbally. Now I'm doing it on paper so that we can keep track of it. Nothing is stopped.
That'll keep the field maintained, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's our benefit, right?
it is.
Motion to approve, the use permit to James Lottie for the, court.
Motion by Susan, supported by Doreen, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. Jason, I don't know if council got to check your email, but if you wanna. Good.
Oh, yeah, we finally got the letter of decision like an hour ago for Chocolate Township. So what happens now is,
Say it again. What decision did we get?
they're taking it into trust. So that starts the 30-day appeal period. So somebody can
We don't
appeal,
need the governor's signature, right?
not for this, no, it's not gaming. She is CC'd as a courtesy, of course, but, so what happens now is that 30-day appeal period starts. The Bureau has not received they received no comments on their notice of application. So I'm already kind of go ahead and started because we need to update our environmental phase 1 assessment, our title work, and our certificate of inspection and possession, which is basically a surveyor back, I don't even know when it was now, but it's been so long.
Remind me how many acres we're talking about?
It's 143.66, something like that. So, the certificate of inspection and possession, that was a survey that was done by a federally, it's not a license, but they have a federal designation on their license that allows them to work on property being transferred by the United States. So they have to come out, they've already done the survey, they've already done the certificate, they have to come out and ensure that nothing has changed since the last time that they did that, and of course, nothing has.
This number 143 is an odd number to me. Where do you have to get 143?
Well, we've got, some of the parcels in the front, they're not even numbered acres because they're not square boxes. But the way it breaks down is that it's determined by the surveyor. He comes out, surveys the lines based on our legal descriptions contained in the deeds.
Well, I'm still not sure what lot
Oh,
we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm
Because
sorry.
143 acres, I'm like,
I'm
the
sorry.
airport's got 110, there's some over at Chocolate Lane, what are we talking about?
So Chocolate Township, everything in front of the casino to the highway that we own, everything to the west that we own, and everything to the south. Now, if you remember, we purchased 80 acres when we were,
Yeah, that's.
so that's kind of where the
So where the wells
bigger
are?
number, yes, where the
Oh,
wells
good.
are.
So we've got the existing 40 where the housing is, and then we are adding 143.
Well, actually, where the housing is only 22 acres.
Because
So
of
we're
the
adding,
change.
we're adding the two 40s in the back and then the 60 plus or minus in the front.
Is there a distinction between all for gaming purposes or combination?
No, it's non-gaming.
Could we put a gas station up
It's
there?
his truck.
Yes.
Hotel though.
Marty, yes.
Oh, okay.
anything besides
And a
gaming.
pawn shop.
Gas station.
Applications for gaming are different.
In a hotel,
And a girl.
Yeah.
the hotel is the biggest.
Well, then we don't have to face zoning, you know,
Right.
regulations.
And they're actually accepting it into the trust based on the fact that we're building the hotel. We've already built it, so, since we have.
And Pines too.
The phase one environmental assessment, obviously y'all know what that is, and they're just gonna come in and update it, make sure that there's
It's just
been
a
no,
historical thing, you know, it's-
that's, yeah, no, and that's taken care of. It's, yeah, and I mean, we actually had to do a lot more work out there because there was a site, I don't know, down the highway somewhere. So when we were in the midst of the project, I was down there with archaeologists from downstate, and they were going through and digging every, I don't know, 100 feet or whatever it was. So that's all been well documented and worked there. And then the title work, I ordered that last week and updated that, and then was told they should have it to me by the end of this week. So things are looking good.
So what kind of time frame, 6 months?
You know, that's all dependent on the bureau. So the contractors that I used before, they've all agreed to do the updates, so that's good. I've also asked them that the work be done within 30 days from the signing of the contract. I've already got the environmental assessment contract has already been signed by the contractor. I need one piece of documentation from him so I can send it to Bridget for approval. The surveyor has given me his price quote and is comfortable with 30 days, so we're good there. Just need him to sign a contract. And there is no contract required for the title work, so they've already started that. So in reality, they get 30 days to accept any appeals. Let's say they get none. You know, if they move things along, you know, I would say you're probably looking at, 60 to 90 days is what I'm thinking. But they want it done as soon as possible after that 30-day period is up. Because of course, they don't want to leave anything to chance that once we've completed an environmental assessment, that something else goes on the property. So it's something that once those updates are done, they're going to want to move quickly.
Yeah.
So,
Can you send us the map with the parcels?
Yeah.
Remind us with the parcels?
Sure.
43,
yeah.
relative to the areas.
Yep, I'm going to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Jason, thanks for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Do you want to go now? Kieran's got to head out, so I would ask that he does his cannabis update now.
Yeah, we're gonna plug the show now.
Sure.
Good morning, everybody. Here's my county's report for 6/50/22. Mark at our sales continue to increase in this location since advertising has begun in Q107. There are no significant issues at this location. Crystal Falls, sales continue to remain steady. Several issues regarding the building have been addressed. I'll be heading down to look at the mold issue and see if I can remediate it myself. We had an issue with a neighbor, which was discussed in closed session. Wishkiki Kevin is continuing to work on the partnership agreement. As you may recall, this is the final piece of the CRA licensure process. We had a face-to-face meeting with Kevin yesterday and with Mark Siebert on the phone. Mr. Abraham has agreed to our changes. We are hoping this document will be submitted to the CRA hopefully by next week's meeting. I will keep council abreast of any developments regarding our application. Nagani, after receiving the bid for the development and execution of the RFP, I reached out to 2 other companies to provide bids for this process. I've received a response from one of those companies, and it is apparent that we should go with them. The Unlock Champion has agreed to conduct the RFP and the construction management professional services for free of charge. Their only request is that they are afforded the opportunity to bid on certain aspects of the proposal. I wouldn't have any objection to this as long as they are not the ones who receive the bids. My request is that Kim or any other tribal designee receive those bids sealed and open in front of the council for review at the agreed upon deadline. That will ensure that the process is fair and impartial to all parties involved. I'm seeking council's approval on will begin the process. They said, yeah, I believe it is.
It's in our policy.
They weren't aware of that.
Oh, they didn't know
They were
that.
gonna receive the bids.
Oh, no.